All right, good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining tonight. We'll be starting now, and we are in part 7 of Stop Worrying and Start Living. Stop Worrying and Start Living, part 7. We move from part 1 to part 2 to part 3 to part 4 to part 5 to part 6 to part 7. This is so important because we'll be discussing this issue because of the importance in our society with people having issue with worrying and anxiety and depression and hopelessness, consequently leading to suicide. Let me start by reading our anchor verse. You know, when you read some of these scriptures, sometimes we attribute different things to them, but it seems as if we don't read it with our own eyes, we read it with the eye of others. So we're starting with the anchor verse. Remember, stop worrying and start living, part 7. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, but are mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold, casting down imagination. All we have discussed so far in this program is on the issue of casting down imagination. And we'll be talking about it today. Today, we are going to be focusing on the internal and external causative agent of depression. Internal and external causative agent of depression. That's our focus on part 7 today. But before then, remember how we started? The fact that the real problem of mankind is management of our mind. Management of our mind. The inability to manage our mind is our greatest challenge as human beings. The inability to manage our mind. You know, we have memory, but our memory is our biggest challenge. We have imagination. Our imagination is our biggest challenge because of inability to manage what goes on in our mind. We worry about the past. We have fear of the future. He said, casting down imagination and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So the real issue for us to deal with as human beings, and for those of us that are Christian, is the fact that there is an imagination to cast down. Is the fact that there is an imagination to cast down. Casting down imagination. Casting down imagination. And every item that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. The more effective you are in managing your mind, the better you live. You know, someone said human being is the most complex chemical reaction. A very lousy CEO of that chemical reaction, of chemical composition, of chemical composition. And we have effective CEO. The effective CEO are the ones that are able to manage their thought process very well. But the lousy ones are the ones that get worried and full of anxiety and full of depression and full of hopelessness, which consequently could lead to suicide. So what are we supposed to put in our mind? Our mind should be preoccupied with the right set of thinking. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, whatever things are virtuous, whatever things are praiseworthy. Think on these things. So we have an idea of what we have to think about as human. Unfortunately, that's not our focus as human beings. We have an idea of what we have to think about. Whatsoever things are true, whatever things are honest. But sometimes we give our mind to think about fearful things, about the future, and we allow the past to also haunt our mind. No wonder he says, guard your heart with all diligence. He didn't say with diligence, so with all diligence. He didn't say with diligence, with all diligence, because out of it are the issue of life. Another translation says, be mindful of what you think, because your thoughts control your life. Be mindful of what you think, because your thoughts control your life. Our thoughts are very powerful. Thought can stimulate chemical reaction that can cause depression. The same thought can stimulate chemical reaction that can cause excitement right in the mind. You know, one of the biggest things that make us different from animals is two faculties: imagination and memory. Two faculties. One, to remember the past. One, to anticipate the future. These two faculties help us to be human. That's what makes us different from animals. But this same powerful tool we have is a big problem for us as humans. Even though it's a powerful tool, but it's a big problem. Because many are lousy CEOs that are unable to manage the thought in their mind, making the thought that create depression to dominate. Making the thought that create depression to dominate. Rather, to have thoughts that create excitement. We allow thought of depression to dominate. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issue of life. It is thoughts that lead to depression. Wrong set of thinking causes depression. So today we are looking at internal and external causative agents that lead to depression. When we talk about external factors, it has to do with external environment. This could be called external triggers that elicit depression. And this could include experiences, traumatic experiences of the past. Can you see where the memory is? Memory. The traumatic experience of the past could lead to depression. Medically, it's called the post-traumatic disorder. Post-traumatic disorder. Maybe it's an accident or loss of loved ones, a tragic incident of the past. Also, disappointment and series of failure. The religious people will call those series of failures, they give it a name. And you know, sometimes we find a way of giving it a name, and when we give it that name, we now decide to live with it. And they say it's one generational issues or causes somewhere. And because of that, you know, maybe you attribute it to the spirit. You know, I was talking to my colleague in the office this week, we were discussing an issue, and he said, that's lying spirit. I said, why do you attribute spirit to everything? Because when you call it a spirit, you now disempower yourself as human, that you can't handle it. So you become armless, you become defenseless. So you are not able to do anything about it. So you throw your hands in arm. And then when you pray, if nothing is happening after prayer, you feel, okay, this is my lot. Because you have defined it in a way. And that definition then makes you to feel like, okay, and you know the interesting thing about life, whatever you call it is what it is. If you call it this, that is what it is. Because that is what you have accepted it to be. Disappointment and series of failure. Then it comes back to the memory. You failed that exam before, you want to write it again, you remember the last failure. Dissatisfaction. Are you living in an environment or working on a job that make you very dissatisfied in life? These are the things that cause depression. Dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction, where you are looking forward to something and it's been delayed for a long time. It also leads to depression. Family crisis is another external causative agent, especially when you're unable to get solution. There's just something about us as human beings. You know, I've said this before, for if you have listened to the previous series, you know, this is part 7, that the biggest challenge we have as human beings, the biggest challenge is the gap between your current reality and your expectation. So we create expectation for ourselves. That expectation we created for ourselves is the major cause of our misery as human. So when there is now a gap between your expectation and your current reality, that's what creates stress in our lives. That's what creates stress in our life. When there's a gap between your expectation and reality. So when something happens, we feel, oh, I should get a job now. I should have kids now. I should get married now. I should get admission now. I should do this now. I should do this. So because I've already have an expectation, I indeed work according to my expectation, stress coming. I begin to attribute it. Why is my own like this? Why is everything like this? It's only my own that this has happened. It's only, you know, you just begin to attribute it to all sorts of things that is not even supposed to be in the first place. As human beings, we are the architect of our challenges. And it's because of our memory and our imagination. You imagine if this does not happen now, how would people say? What would they think about me? Beginning to imagine and conjure so many things in our mind. The major cause of stress in our life is not lack of finance. The major cause of stress in our life is not lack of money. It's not even health issues. It's not even challenge in the family. The major cause of stress is the gap between your set expectation and your current reality. That means if I don't allow the fact that, okay, I don't mind having this if it happens, I desire it, but I don't see it as a do or die affair that it has to happen now. If it doesn't happen, it becomes like something is wrong with me. Now I see something is wrong with me. Because I see something is wrong with me, then I begin to say, okay, how do I fix what is wrong with me? Then I give it a name. And if you are a very, very religious person, a name will be given to it. You know, the reason why I believe so much in the scriptures is because it's a book of principle and manual for life. So I see it as a book of principle and manual for life, not a religious book, but a place to pick up ideas on how to live. Such that when there are issues, I ask myself, what are the right principles to apply in this situation? Rather than attribute it to whatever it is. But we have made a religious book, so you know what happened? We read into it what is not there, rather than discovering the gold mine of principles to apply. And then it creates a lot of stress in our lives. It's a big challenge, I must say. So when you are looking forward to something and it's being delayed, family crisis is another external causative agent of depression. Sometimes it's divorce. Someone has gone through a divorce or unable to find solution to a particular family problem. Depression is what makes a woman to go and fight her husband's side chicks in public. He needs to just fight it out. Another causative factor that causes depression is major changes or drastic shift in our lives. Maybe because of health issue or finance or family, loss of loved ones. It could also be children. For example, when the children go to school, that's why it's so unfortunate. You know, some people don't realize that as a parent, you don't own those children. You're just a steward. And you have 18 years job, 19 or 20 year max. Those children will have to go their way. If you allow your life to be tied around them, when they are gone, it can create depression because you think you own them. You think you own them. This could be when children have gone to school or when they get married. Also when someone experiences bankruptcy that leads to poverty. All these are challenges of life. Always remember, in our life, tsunami will come. There's nothing we can do about it. Tsunami will come. When it will come, we don't know, but it will come. What kind of person are you or will you be when it comes? Because it will come. It will come. Who goes through challenges, unimaginable one in life. All of us will have a fair share. It is called life. But if you have not developed yourself in such a manner to be able to separate yourself from happenings around you and you allow your memory or your imagination to haunt you, it slides into depression, from worry to anxiety, from anxiety to depression, from depression to hopelessness. And if hopelessness is not dealt with, it could lead to suicide. A person could experience depression after seemingly positive life event, like getting married sometimes, because of the shock of the drastic change in their lifestyle. For some, it's in pregnancy or post-pregnancy, what they call postpartum depression. Some is promotion at work, because it brings enormous new responsibility that they don't know how to handle. So even good things could cause depression. Even good things could cause depression. Not only bad incidents. Events like graduation from school make you to suddenly discover that you are now on your own. And you now have a responsibility for your life. Events like getting back from vacation that make you to remember the stress you'll be going through at work. When you examine yourself and see that you do not have any of the external factors, even though you are depressed, then it's time to look at the internal factors. So let's explore the internal factor that can lead to depression. And remember, this depression is as a result of the way you manage your past experiences and future anticipation of challenges. When we talk about internal factors, that has to do with internal environment. For example, inner critics. This involves the inner voice that speaks to you about what you are doing wrong. Some people criticize themselves so badly, as in they criticize themselves to a fault. They criticize themselves as if when they make mistake, they talk to themselves as if there's nothing good about themselves. Can you imagine? Forgetting that as long as a human being, you will make mistake. You will always make mistake. What you must not do is to repeat the same mistake twice. It becomes a vice. When you criticize yourself too much, it makes you not to love or care for yourself. Inner critics is always blaming yourself for all the things that you're not doing well. This thought creates a feeling in you that is who you are, and that what others are thinking about you, that is who you are. You know, you now begin to think that, oh, I'm not good for anything. This is who I am. I'm like that. As in, you now accept that negative situation as true about you. One thing we must learn tonight is that your thought is not you. Always remember, your thought is not you. It's just a thought. Your thought is not you. In fact, one thing we must learn is stability in our thought. You know, if you see someone that his hand is shaking, his hand is shaking, his hand is shaking, you will think he has a Parkinson's disease or Parkinson's syndrome. He has a shaking. It's always shaking. Now, that's the way our mind, for many, shake. But we can't see it. If we can see the way the mind is always fluctuating, jumping around, you would think something is wrong with this person. Just the way when the hand or leg is shaking, you say the person has a neurological problem. That's the way the mind of people change. Just jumping around. Avoid that inner critics of yourself. When you are always criticizing yourself, you don't see anything good in yourself, only the bad. We discussed 2 sessions ago, thought disorders, thought disorders. It's a thought disorder, it's not normal. How do you deal with an overactive and hyperactive inner critics? You need to begin to observe yourself and listen to yourself and begin to write down those negative thoughts you think about yourself. You need to write it down. Observe. During the day, how many times do you criticize yourself negatively? Write it down. Why are you writing it down? To be able to separate yourself from what you have written down. You must remember that your thought is not you. The fact that a thought is coming to you does not mean that that is who you are, or that you have to do that thing. Don't identify yourself with the condemning inner voices, because they are not you. They are just thoughts. They come and go. When you separate your thought from you, you have solved the problem 50%. By separating your thought from you, you have solved the problem 50%. You know, as human, you have the body, you have the soul, the seat of the mind, and the spirit. The real person is the spirit man. Your thought is not you. If you can learn to separate your thought from you, by not accepting what that thought is saying, but rather accepting what is true about you. Remember when I started? What are the things you should think about? Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, whatsoever things are virtuous, whatsoever things are praiseworthy. Think on these things. You must be very conscious of your thoughts. Remember, be mindful of your thoughts, of what you think, because your thought controls your life. Be very, very mindful of how you think. Be very, very mindful of how you think, because your thought controls your life. Be very, very mindful of how you think, because your thought controls your life. Be mindful of how you think. This is so critical and important. You can be thinking negative now, and it will release chemical substance in your body that can make you to even collapse. Our thoughts are that powerful. It's that powerful. And at the same time, you can also think of something that can get you excited instantly. Our thoughts are very, very powerful. You know, someone make an illustration I want to share with you. He says, let's assume you are going on a sunny day in a car without AC. It's so sunny, you are sweating. You are late for a meeting. There was bad traffic, and you are the one driving. Only for someone to hit you because he was rushing somewhere, and you came out to harass the person, and you discover this person is in distress. Now, when you were coming out of rage, because you're already very stressed because of the situation of traffic. You are late, it's sunny. But immediately you meet that person, you realize that this person currently have his only son in the clinic, which has an accident. They're about to operate on the child. He doesn't even know if he will see the child alive again. You came out of the car enraged. As you meet this guy and you hear this story, it will be like that rage drained from you completely. So what has happened? What has happened? You were enraged before. Now you are sympathetic. in a split of second. Change of information and the thought, the interpretation of that message. That is how powerful our mind is. So can you see that that thought that you had is not you? The thought changed immediately because of the prevailing circumstances and situation. If you can separate your thought from you, and you now know your thought is not you, 50% of the problem have now been solved. %50 of the problem have now been solved. Take a decision that since your thoughts are not you, you are going to ignore them. You are going to set this aside. It's just like someone knocking at your door. So you can come in and open the door, but you can also choose not to open the door. If you open the door, that guest will become your guest. It will enter into your home and you become vulnerable. If you refuse to open the door, you are not letting him in. So you can ignore the thought by getting engaged in something else more interesting. The way an unwanted visitor come knocking at your door is exactly the way unwanted thought come knocking at your door. This is exactly the way you treat your thought. If a bad thought knock at your door rather, and you do not open it up by ruminating on it. You say, it's true, oh. It's true, oh. By the time you are ruminating on that thought, you have opened the door for the thought to come and dwell inside of you. If you open up a conversation with it, you run the risk of opening door to bad thought. If you are able to keep the door shut against the thought, then you will be able to overcome negative thought and the impact of negative thought leading to depression in your life. If you are able to constantly do this, you become the owner of your thoughts, the owner of your house, without infringement of any unwanted visitors. For many of us, we allow so many and so much unwanted visitor to take charge of our lives. We allow so many and so much unwanted visitor to take care of your life. When the thought comes, another thing you need to do is to begin to confess positively about yourself. Say good things about yourself. Because that will help you to create a new thought and a new reality for yourself. Negative thinking is an internal causative agent of depression. Now, inner critics make you to criticize yourself, bad, seeing what is bad about what you do. But negative thinking make you to only think of evil things of others and judge them rashly. Negative thinking is another cause of depression. You know, the interesting thing about this is sometimes people think negative of others and they believe that thought and they act based on that. Can you imagine? He said, I just feel that this is what he wants to do. And then because I feel that's what he wants to do, and I did this against him. Can you imagine? Based on the thought, he's going to act. That is animalistic. Animalistic. If something just occurred to me, I just act based on that. Animalistic. It's like I'm acting on instinct. And as human, we have reasoning. I should subject whatever I want to do to reasoning. Is it right or wrong? And to truth. Rather than moving from thought to action. Negative thinking makes you to see everything in the negative light and negative perspective. This is what religion has done. You know, look, I can't separate the way we think as human beings in Nigeria, in Africa, to religion. I can't separate it. The reason why I can't separate it is because I feel we bastardize what I believe Christianity should represent for those of us that are Christian. We bastardize it. People, they attribute everything to devil, to evil spirit, to demon. As in, even if they see someone behave in a particular way, they will attribute it again. And so at the end of the day, what tends to happen is that is the only thing he sees is the evil things. He doesn't see, even when someone done good, he will think he's doing that good because he had evil intention. And the reason why you will think that way, that's why something happened, you think in a particular way, but someone else in that situation, he think in a different way because of what you have been fed. What you have been fed. We only think only about enemy. And sometimes some people will even pray for the enemy to die. Can you imagine? You know, sometimes I ask myself, for those that said to be Christian, if they even read the Bible at all. Because you are supposed to love your enemy if you're a Christian. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that despisefully use you and persecute you. So even if the person is really doing it, he said you should love. He said you should love. So there is no basis. There is no basis for the negative thinking against that person in the first place, wishing that he would die, or any other negative things against the person. It's so important not to see things in negative light. And don't to accept whatever thought that comes to you. Verify, ascertain, check it up. When you see everything in the bad light, you are going to live in isolation because you won't be able to relate with people. You think everybody have evil intention against you. Can you imagine? It's a very terrible and frustrating way to live, ladies and gentlemen. You need to remind yourself that what people have done wrong, it's not enough for you to use it to judge them. This is because you are not in their shoes and therefore cannot see the problem that they have that make them to behave the way they have behaved, even if they have behaved so badly. If you are in their shoe, maybe you will have done worse. Let your thoughts be guided by the scriptures. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are of good report, whatsoever things are virtuous, whatsoever things are praiseworthy. Think on these things. Spend more time thinking on these things. If you are going to be able to stop negative thinking, get busy doing what you love to do. That's why you must catch yourself. You must be able to note how often does this happen in a day. Catch yourself. Get busy doing what you love to do. Get something doing. Get something doing. Get busy doing what you love to do. To stop that thought, sometimes you might need to pick up your phone and call an interesting friend or someone who is a very jovial person, full of life, that can make you laugh a little. Or someone that you can have some interesting conversation. Take your mind away from that. Get busy. consciously. If you need to listen to music that will make you to meditate correctly, get it. Just find something around you. You know, the beauty today is we are blessed with technology. We are blessed with technology. So your phone should always have information, materials, music, whatever it is that you can listen to that can edify your mind, that can make you to think correctly. You need to be deliberate about it until you get used to thinking correctly. And sometimes you also have to be mindful. What is the things you see? What is the things you hear? What are the places you go that make that to happen? What is it? That things you see, that things you hear, that place you go that make that thing to happen, that thought to come, you need to deal with it. Immediately you identify it, people, places, and events that trigger those negative thoughts. People, places, and events. Of course, you now must be disciplined to avoid it as much as you can. To avoid it as much as you can. So, interesting friend that can gist more about interesting stuff. Another thing you can do is to take a walk. Do a workout in gym. Get yourself busy doing something more creative. Get yourself busy doing something more creative. This is why you must catch yourself. So that immediately you catch yourself, then you do something about it. Immediately you catch yourself, then you do something about it. Immediately you catch yourself, then you do something about it. Immediately you catch yourself, then you do something about it. Get creative. This is so important. Look at something interesting and productive you can do. Please note that those thoughts are not yours, and you must refuse to accept it, because accepting it means you are saying it is yours. And that is what creates problems, leading to worry, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, and consequently suicide. Because if you see anything negative in everybody, you are going to isolate yourself. If you isolate yourself, you are going to aggravate that depression when you are lonely. Because you don't see it, you just suspect everybody. Can you imagine? Suspect everybody. Suspect everybody. Get something to do to forget about that thought. Remember that our major challenge as human is our mind. For though you walk in the flesh, you do not war after the flesh. But the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold. The stronghold is the stronghold of your thoughts. And he said, casting down imagination. The real thing to cast out is not the devil, it's the imagination. Because you are the one imagining those things. If those imagination does not come, they have to cast out. So the real issue is imagination, thought. Casting down imagination and everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Casting down imagination. Remember, whatsoever things are true, that's what you think about. Whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely. Think on these things. You know, in this world, things will happen. But the way you respond shows whether you are wise or you are wounded. When things happen to us in life, you are either reacting or responding. Reacting is negative, responding is positive. The wise respond, the wounded react. The wise respond, The wounded react. Respond involves conscious effort to confront the challenges and find a way out. React involves blaming someone else, throw you up in arms, and look helpless, complaining, worry, anxiety. The way you respond is determined by your history, the history in your memory, the way you respond. You know, our intelligence functions based on the amount of data we have gathered through learning. Now, the reason, based on what we have learned now, if you go back and listen to this again, listen again and again and again and again and again until it becomes part and parcel of you, look at what will happen. You will now become more conscious to respond correctly. Because our intellect functions based on the amount of data that it has gathered through learning. Through learning. This is so important. It is negative thinking that makes someone to be thinking that the only way he can succeed is for others to fail. And that when he succeeds and others fail, that's what makes him happy. Do you know what? That is a sickness. A big sickness. If what makes someone happy is when he is succeeding and others are failing. And our society, even in the way we pray like we should succeed, the others should fail. We alone should succeed, the others should fail. Even in prayer. That's some, you know, thank God God is not answering those prayers because of that when you hear some things that people say, why should you succeed and others fail? Why can't everyone be successful together? Why? When your joy is in others failing, it is a sickness. It's a sickness. You know, one of the biggest challenges of our world is actually the issue of identity and limited identity. What I mean by that is, you know, when you see yourself as a Yoruba person, or as an Igbo person, or as an Hausa person, or as a Frenchman, or a German, a Chinese, or see yourself as an Hindu, or Islam, or Christian, or you see yourself as a white, or black, or yellow, or red, or see yourself as being tall or short, and you have attributed some superiority to your own characteristics, either because of religion, or because of tribe, or because of color, or because of height, or because of whatever it is. The person have a limited identity. That's a dangerous person. That's a dangerous person. That person, if he's well empowered, is going to do harm, probably more than Hitler in this world. The reason why we hate others is because we are not seeing them as human, fellow human. That's why you have negative thinking against others. And you hate them. To be human is to live, is to give. To be human is to love. To be human is to serve. When you don't have a limited identity, you remain human. When you have a limited identity, such an individual becomes inhuman. When someone has a limited identity, such an individual becomes inhuman. And religious organization is making Nigerians, Africans, to be inhuman based on the way we see our neighbor and we talk to them, the way we perceive them as if they are the cause of our problem, and begin to have negative thoughts against people. Negative thought against people. This is so important. This is very, very important. When I have a limited identity, that means I have forsaken my humanity, and that's a crime. That's a crime. That's a crime. When someone is playing against others, that person, if it's empowered, of course, it will do harm. That's the challenge of a limited identity. When I don't identify with others and see myself as being better than others. So the people are not fit to live, they must die. So today we have looked at causative agent of depression and the fact that the greatest faculty of mankind that make us different from animals is our biggest problem. It's our biggest problem. We think about the past, we allow it to haunt us, rather than leveraging on what has happened in the past to learn the lesson and grow thereby, and imagine a great future ahead. Rather, we use that imagination to create fear of the future, and then we allow the past to haunt us in such a manner that it disempowers us to be able to maximize the moment we are. We've talked about the internal and external factors that this elicits in our life. The external factor being things that trigger depression from outside. We talk about traumatic experience of life, disappointment, or series of failure. And I talk about that series of failure. We are quick to attribute it. It's just like Thomas Edison. No, just imagine Thomas Edison. Now, if Thomas Edison have attributed his failure in trying to get the light bulb, if he's an African, by the time he has done the fifth one, they will say, no. This is a sign of a generational curse, a sign of work and fail, a sign of, I think they will just give one name. I'm telling you, Thomas Edison, if he was in Nigeria or Africa in today's world, we will not cover it. But Thomas Edison keep working at it, keep series of failure. The series of failure of Thomas Edison gave us the light bulb. I don't know why we attribute to our own one negative stuff. Thomas Edison, he gave us the light bulb. He kept trying. And he said he has only known a way it will not work. He has only known a way it will not work. But here, we'll give it a name. And we now disempower ourselves to take any action to solve that problem. We disempower ourselves to take any action to solve that problem. Why? Because we have already given ourselves a thought that this is what is causing it, whereas it's not true. Then we begin to think, worry about the situation. Now, I've had an issue, series of failure. Rather than sitting there and analyzing, what have I learned from this failure? What could I do differently? How could I improve on it? I throw up my arms and say, no, someone is behind it. Someone wants to do this, someone wants to do that. And then I'm unable to make any progress again because I feel I'm disempowered. Then it becomes difficult for me to be successful in that venture. Why? I've given up my power, saying someone caused it, or someone did this, or someone did that. And because I gave up that power, what will I do? I can't do anything again. Are we even trying, actually? Are we even trying? Why will I not try? I've disempowered myself already. I've disempowered myself already. These are the issues. Series of failure and disappointment, dissatisfaction about life. Remember also I mentioned the fact that when you are dissatisfied because of something you expect that didn't happen, it creates stress, and that the greatest cause of stress in our life is the gap, the big, deep gap between our expectation and reality. It's good to have big dreams, but immediately you have the dream, leave it as dream. Enjoy the journey towards it. If it doesn't work, keep trying. Find other ways of doing it. Don't just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. What you become in the journey of life is more important than that goal you want. What you become, what you learned, the more love you have, the more peace you develop in yourself, the more gentleness you develop, the more faith you develop, the more long suffering you develop, the more patience you develop, the more skill, the more competence is more important than the goal you have set. Growing, learning, developing is superior to that goal you have set. If you always put your eye on that goal, you compare to where you are, that is what creates stress. The level of stress in your life is directly proportional to the gap between the expectation you have set, of course, which was created for you by the environment, and the current reality of your life in every sector or segment of your life. In every sector or segment of your life. As I round off, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are joy, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, if there be any praise, think on these things. Oh, all right. Yes, I have. Let me hear from you. For those of us that are able to join today, this is being recorded basically for people to be able to access in future. But I appreciate those of us that are able to join the live session. But it's also recorded so that people will be able to, I get to talk to people, and sometimes some of these issues come up. I just tell them, look, go and listen to this, and then let's discuss afterwards. Yes, Miss Summer, thanks for joining. What do you have to say tonight? Oh, Madam Urala, good evening. Yes, Miss Summer, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Yes,
Yes, Miss Summer, go ahead. Madam, I'll come to you. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, first of all, I want to say thank you for the very incisive teaching. I know I've not really been following up, but the few that I've listened to, they have been very helpful. And today's teaching, I got a lot of things, but I'm just going to state a few. First of all, um, you only become what you permit. Like the
Yes.
thoughts, they say you become what you think about, but you only become the thoughts you
Yes.
permit. The mind
Yes.
is just like, I would say, like a marketplace, and it is
Yes.
what you buy, what you go, a lot of things. The mind presents a lot of things to you, and what you
Yeah.
decide to purchase, that is what is going to begin to play out. So
Yes.
one has to intentionally, like, if you want peace, then you then you have to, every thought that negates that kind of peace or the kind of emotion you're looking for, you should avoid such thoughts. And or even
Yeah.
thoughts about people and all of that. In fact, sometimes you also mentioned it that some people just think about, just think up negative thoughts about people and just hate them like that. And it's
Yeah.
true. So instead of allowing one's mind to like linger on such thoughts, why don't, when maybe if any negative thing that thought about somebody crosses one's mind, immediately one can just try to like shove it outside, like turn it down. And and I also believe I've also from all that you said, I think the mind can also be trained, like in if one consistently um um allow certain kind of thoughts. The more thoughts, it's like a channel, a particular channel of thoughts. Let me say positive and negative. Maybe say a particular positive thoughts. The more thoughts, the more of a certain kind of thought you allow, the more such thoughts will be coming. So it means that if we give room to negative, to just one strand of negative thoughts, it will open door for more negative thoughts. But if we give room for maybe a positive thought and welcome it, and if any negative thought comes and one tries to shut it down, it would it would give us more it will give room for more positive thoughts to come in. And yeah,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
stop there.
Yeah.
Let me stop there.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you very much.
you're
Good
welcome,
evening,
sir.
madam. Thanks for joining.
Good evening, Mr. Amibo.
Good evening, madam.
It's nice being on the program.
Thank
I
you.
thought it's only exports you talk about. I never knew you I never knew you inspire people too. You have a program that inspires people. When I saw this link, I wasn't
Yeah.
too sure what it was about actually. But having listened to
Okay.
you, ironically, you use one of my favorite Bible passages, which is Philippians 4:8.
Okay. Okay. Which one?
Yes, Philippians 4:8 that says, finally, brothers and
Okay.
sisters,
Okay.
whatsoever is
Okay.
true, whatsoever is noble, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which we are in a world whereby you have external things beyond your control. But when you draw so much on
Yeah.
it, like you have enumerated, it becomes your thought, and your thought process becomes what you
Yeah.
live with. So if one does not really want to
Yeah.
be a negative person, you have to go back to Philippians 4:8 and look for
Yeah.
passages that will really, really inspire you. Like the Bible says,
Yeah.
David, and even in a very desperate situation, David encouraged himself in
Encourage
the Lord.
himself. He encourage
We
himself.
should
He encourage
encourage
himself.
ourselves. Yes, we should not give to pity party. A lot of us enjoy pity party,
Yeah.
and it's not supposed to be like that. Don't be like I used to tell people when we are discussing, they will say the poor will always be in the land. I said there's a point in life when we are coming up. You may be in that category, but that does not mean you should remain there. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have to work on our thought process. We have to work both mentally, physically, spiritually. Anyhow, you must fight hatred. You must fight. Um, there's nothing more like witchcraft when people are celebrating and you are sad.
Yes.
it's not. It's not. And you have them, whether you like it or not. You have them as internal customers. You have them as external customers. Don't let us think it's only outsider that doesn't want our good. Even people within, you find them all over. So we should try as much. One thing I've always prayed and I've always thanked God for, I don't envy anybody. So a negative thought can never come into my heart for you. I will always wish you well. So we should consciously work on our thought process, because you talked about so many things that affected us as individuals and affected our society at large. When I say society, I like people around you. You must think good for everybody. If you think good for everybody, naturally, You'll be good from within, and your without will be good too. So that's my little contribution.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you for joining. Abidemi Olaofe. Hello, Bidemi.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah,
Good
Bidemi, are
evening.
you there tonight?
Yeah, very well. I'm here.
Yeah,
Good
good
evening.
evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot today again, and I must confess, I have a lot of things to take back home. And that's like so many things you said, but I will just summarize and talk about the ones that affect me personally. You said something that we must learn stability in our thoughts. I must say that that's a very difficult one for me because I think I allow external things worry me too much. Not more of I really don't have much of the internal problems affecting and all that. But you see, external factor, especially for those of us that live in the diaspora. You go out in the morning and just like you said, there's some people that just think you shouldn't be alive because you are back. Some people just think, like I experienced something in my daughter's school last week. I took my daughter to school and there's this set of children that she plays with and they've been playing from the onset, but I just noticed some changes lately. The boy's mother, one of the boys will just call her son back once my daughter starts playing with him. And, like you said, I actually responded in a very terrible way last week. I was so angry. I just called my daughter and I said, come here. You stay with me and you don't go there. And, I now, in the end, I just felt bad. I was like, oh God, why did I allow this get to me this way? I just felt, for God's sake, these are just children. You say hi to her, she doesn't respond. She's just this kind of people that think, because you're Black, you don't even say hi to me. Because, I have studied over time. I take my time. I'm not judgmental. But because I've now seen that, okay, now she wants to transfer it to the child. I reacted badly and I actually felt bad. So it's one thing I just pray every day that God, please help me stabilize my thoughts. I really want that. Yeah, I really need that. No external thing like you said, you don't even know what these people are passing through. Half of the time, if you ever hear the stories, you just be like, oh, they are the ones that you should even. And somehow you get on the edge because they are just reacting. So I really am actually working on that, trying to control my thought process, trying to help myself see that I'm stable. No, I really don't have the problems from the inside. Don't criticize myself. I don't get to do that because if you don't encourage yourself here, you'll be in big shit. So I don't even do that. We see this external factor for us here, especially our children. So I'm actually praying that God helps me to be able to stabilize my thoughts so I can also hand that over to my kids because they need to be stable. They need to be able to stand up and talk. They need to be able to know who they are because there's a place they have actually carved out that, oh, you stay here, that's where you belong because you are Black. So it's something that I don't want that to even be. I don't even talk about it. I don't even want that to lose my life. Just want to be like, okay, I'm human. I'm not better than anybody, and nobody is better than me.
It's better than you.
I want to be able to just go in there, do my work, take my children to school. They do what concerns them. Be able to say, and I think this is very good for me this week. And I have some learning points I will go work on and see how I can put them into action, practical action, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. Negative thinking for us here is you have to beat yourself. You don't allow that come up, but you see, external factors are very strong here, so you have to also be very strong and maybe listen to things like this once in a while and help you be on the right path. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being able to make it today. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next week. Bye-bye.